And the bigger picture is, if our universities cannot be the first place that interrupts the bitter knowledge of white and black youth, after 18 years, even though they were born after Mandela, after was released from prison, after 18 years, they carry a very deep, deep set of knowledges about themselves and others. That's very hard to understand. So South Africans call them born frees. They're not born free. They might have been born into democracy, but they're not born free. They're born with the memories of others. They're born with the pain inherited from their parents. And everybody is a victim. And so that is our primary obsession. How do we begin to teach people that they were not born a color, but that they were actually born human? And that therefore, as easily as people put on them particular identities, that our task, politically and pedagogically, as a university, is to undo that, so that they begin to encounter each other again, not as a race, but as human beings first. And that's very difficult, I can assure you.
I will be very much happy if we have this conference as an annual event in our city. Historically, this city was known as the heartland of apartheid, which meant that the brutalities of apartheid were mainly upheld here. It was an Afrikaner-dom city, very, very conservative and very right-wing during that time. So it is quite important that it is in this place where now we are talking about reconciliation, we are talking about coming together, we are talking about freedom, we are talking about bringing dignity and pride back to South Africans, and more so also to the people of the world.
The whole conference was a great experience, and I meet a lot of interesting and important people. I think a really good thing is to talk about your history, your story, and to begin a healing process until we can forgive each other and go together for a better future.
So I will be doing this in South Sudan to encourage all other young men not to use really violence as a method of solving issues, not to use hatred, not to use provocation, not to hurt the heart of another person, but to use the method that can even bring freedom to you yourself as an individual. Because the moment you hate another person, it's quite like you're imprisoning yourself.
I think in your school system, it's still that up to a certain level or after a certain level, the exams are not in Afrikaans but in English. Is that like the legacy of that rivalry between the two?
We are still grappling deeply with the socio-economic poverty divides, but it goes with racial divides. that we still live in very separate communities, and we still struggle to really live together as white and black and people of color in South Africa. So that's really where I come from.
From my experience and my point of view is, as a young South African, we are very happy for what our parents did, and I mean we're enjoying the fruit of freedom that they fought for us. But then it's up to us now to kind of pop out of that cocoon and try to use it to the best of our abilities.
So now the divides are no longer racial or skin color, they are economic. So this whole kind of sense of this range of the rainbow in color and divides exist.
If you go back to the east of the continent, you will see that we still have work to do on harmonization of societies. We still have ethnicity, ethnic rivalry, and the rest. But we have gone a long way. We've gone a long way.
People in Switzerland felt that they were lucky that Switzerland was not drawn into the First and the Second World War. So the initiator of moral rearmament, Dr. Frank Buchmann, said to the Swiss who were in co, learning how to run this huge and growing organization, he said, you were spared from the war, and what are you going to do now to create peace in the world?
And it just is incredible to me to see how you assumed your responsibility. How do you come to accept this responsibility on all of the sizes and continue to work on it?
But clearly, what I said came from a personal journey that took a long time of having to really face up to what was done to fellow South Africans in the name often of Christianity. And I'll say a little bit more about that journey, because I think that's why I'm so passionate about this theme of responsibility. You know, and that's why I'm so sad sometimes today when I hear so many privileged white South Africans focusing on what is wrong in the new South Africa. And yes, I mean, the Dalai Lama thing is sad. I mean, I'm not happy about that. But I'm also unhappy about the way in which people who come from my background are now pointing the fingers at everything that is wrong and not taking responsibility for our share in what is wrong, and not taking responsibility for the lack of criticism we voiced towards the previous system.
As young South Africans, I think it's up to us to try and open eyes to all other young South Africans that opportunities are there and the world is just a stage.